What's up, everyone? Wow, I'm super excited to be talking about this episode. We talked about how we were going to do some live episode reviews before the season started. That ended up not working out, but we're here live right now, and I'm here live with my panel, Gemma and George. Guys, what did you think of the episode? Wow, some crazy things happened. Gemma and George, introduce yourselves.
Me first, right? Hi, I'm Gemma. I'm Secrets of the Citadel. Really pleased to be here at 11 minutes past 3 in the morning. The things I do for Game of Thrones. That was amazing. Absolutely amazing. I've got some problems, but I did love it. But we'll get into all of that. George.
3 in the morning.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around the whole thing and everything that's going on in the last week, and now seeing the episode again and finally being able to talk about it. There's some really great things that happened. There's I think we found that we have a new Olympic champion runner as part of Jon's King's Guard. But let's not talk about some of the silly things. Let's start out and talk about some of the great things. Let's go to it.
Well, we don't have just an Olympic runner. We have an Olympic thrower. I think we met Zeus in person. Wow. I guess we should start off. You guys want to go in chronological order, or do you want to talk about the big? I mean, we'll talk about the biggest moments last. Obviously, the Night King killing Viserion, which is absolutely humongous. But let's start off. They're north of the Wall. We have our ragtag group of 7, magnificent 7, if you want to call them that, our Fellowship of the 7, and they're going beyond the wall to find the mountain that looks like an arrowhead and, try to capture a white. What did you think that between the conversations, obviously, Sandor saying that they're whinging it, which was pretty funny, the back and forth between them. And then obviously, conversation between Jorah and Jon and the Brotherhood and whatnot. What were you thinking when all this was going down, Jim? And we got some comedy at the start of the episode.
Yeah, it was good. A bit of banter, a bit of bonding, some humorous conversations, some kind of tying up of loose ends, like the whole Brotherhood without banners, Beric and Thoros having that discussion with Gendry about Melisandre. And there was one thing that really stuck out to me in those very, very initial conversations, aside from Gendry being completely traumatized by Tormund's sexual preferences, let's say. The thing that stood out to me was when Jon said there's not a living woman within 100 miles or whatever of here, and I'm just thinking, Night Queen, Night Queen, Night Queen, is this some kind of foreshadowing? But that's just my little piece of tinfoil. I'm always looking for stuff like that, little clues, But yeah, overall, really enjoying. Hi, everybody in the chat, by the way, lots of people in the chat already. Yeah, overall, really enjoyable. Those initial, it was almost the calm before the storm. You knew things were going to get real very, very soon. So it was nice. It was nice. Some of it was a bit cringe, but yeah, for the most part, I enjoyed those initial conversations very much.
What are your thoughts on that, George? I mean, obviously, they're north beyond the wall. We know what their mission is. We knew that there's going to have to be a few scenes to set up the big battle. There's obviously a few things that were said. The conversation between Jorah and Jon was interesting because Jorah never accepted the sword back. And then he says, you can pass it down to your children someday. Are they hammering home the idea that possibly Jon can have a kid like that? I mean, I don't know, man. That was foreshadowing for me.
That's because you want to read into it that Jon can do that. You're so against this whole idea of a fire white that you're looking for every possible reason that you can find to not make him be one. I think on the other hand, though, that it sounded more like something that Jorah would, the new Jorah, this come around Jorah would be trying to say, that he really wants, to move forward with a good foot, and he knows that Jon is honorable, or at least he feels it, and that his dad passed that sword on to him for a reason. And that's Jorah's way of telling him that he respects his dad's choice and that he's willing to move on without it, and that perhaps Jon's going to be able to bring more glory and honor to his own family weapon than he would be able to. Because as we know, his dad was just looking, or Jon's dad, uncle, was looking to execute Jorah. So I'm still trying to get some of this stuff.
Sometimes it gets confusing, right? It's like uncle, dad. He is technically his dad because he was his best father figure in his life, you know.
Right. But I don't think they are I don't think you can look at it as foreshadowing. I think it's something everybody wants, and I think that's definitely the direction the show is going to go in. But I'm not going to. I don't think it's necessarily foreshadowing on its own.
Okay, so did we have any, I mean, obviously, final points about the first scene? Do we want to move a little bit more into the north where Sansa and Arya are having a discussion? And it gets pretty tense. It's starting to get pretty tense up in Winterfell. We know that before the season started, they talked a little bit, or people were speculating that it was going to be Jon versus Sansa and all this is going down. And I hedged my bets on that not happening. I said that was fake news. But what are your thoughts on, you know, Arya and Sansa not getting along, Gemma? I mean, in this scene, Arya was pretty ruthless, right?
I'm still holding on to the hope that it's a play. I am so convinced in my mind that they are playing Littlefinger, but then I watch those scenes and think, are they? Yeah, no, they are. And then something else, and I'm maybe no, they are, and I still maintain that they are playing Littlefinger. I mean, they're having this conversation on the balcony at Winterfell, the first one, and she gets the letter out, and they're essentially having a conversation about what it's like to be a female in this world and how difficult that is and the expectations that are put upon them that they might not necessarily be able to fulfill. They talk about the terrible treatment they've received at the hands of men, or Sansa does specifically. And it just comes across that there's so much more that they have in common than they have reasons to fight. And it was almost like they were talking in code, but there's so much more in this episode. I mean, they only had a handful of very brief scenes, really, but this isn't just this one scene in isolation that's causing me to think all of this. So I'm going to hold on to quite a few of those thoughts until we move on into the later scenes with Sansa and Arya. But yeah, I'm holding on to hope that they have to be playing him, because otherwise it's really dumb. I just can't see Arya being that naive.
What are your thoughts on that, George? I mean, has this been a setup from the start?
Well, first off, I think we're finding more proof that it's not Arya, it's the Waif. But beyond that, but I think we are really seeing that Sansa, I think, as Tickle Lady just said, Sansa is playing Littlefinger. Arya is trying to do her best to use her games and her training to find out exactly where Sansa's coming from. She hasn't seen Sansa in years, and she's trying to figure out exactly what she's doing, where she is, what side she's on, and trying to get to the heart of the matter so they can work as quickly as possible to really sew up the North and have it work. You know, and they both know that the thing they have to get rid of is Littlefinger one way or the other. And they're both trying to find out how to do it and what they need to do to make that work. And Sansa, or Arya rather, needs to know where Sansa's coming from and if she can trust her.
George, you're getting ripped apart in the chat right now. They're saying, "Oh, Jeezy, drop the wave stuff." They're really getting mad at you in there, man. Oh my god.
It's fine. It's totally true, and we're never going to know because she's totally taken her place and just absorbed her. So she may as well. She thinks she's Arya at this point, so it's all good.
Anyways, aside from that, the scene was interesting. In the background, obviously, we have some hanging animals. I'm not sure if they're rabbits or cows or whatever, but you know, that's kind of what Sansa had to go through. She had pieces of her skin that she still feels. You know, from the pain that she got from Ramsay Bolton. This symbolism is still there. And I think that, you know, was Arya playing a game with her too? Was she just testing her in that moment? Like, she's trying to test Sansa as many times as she can to be like, oh, you know, she's lying to me, or she's being truthful to me. Like, I don't know. I feel like she's playing a set of games almost, Gemma.
Yeah, I think that I mean, later on, I said I wasn't going to cover later on, but I have to kind of put this point across. When Sansa gets the letter from Cersei, it's a small horizontal, like a scroll that she opens up. And then we cut to her burning letters in the fire in the main hall where she's talking to Brienne. And the letters that the way it's edited, it makes it look like she's putting Cersei's letter into the fire, but she's not. These are two larger sheets. They are not the same message. So she is burning letters or sheets in the fire. And I'm wondering, is this how Arya and Sansa are secretly communicating with each other and then are having these open conversations in the knowledge that Littlefinger could well be listening? And in that case, are they perhaps, or Arya at least, going off script a little from the pre-discussed conversation that they're going to have? And Sansa's thinking, for goodness sake, Arya,
you're scaring the shit out of me.
Yeah, a little bit too convincing there, honey, you know, just whoa, stop with the scary Mary.
You heard it here. Arya is #scary Mary from now on, according to George. I mean, you know, we talked about, obviously, Arya learning quite a bit from the Faceless Men. She's really turned into a different person. She's kind of not become no one, but she's not quite Arya. Bran's not quite Bran. Sansa's kind of still Sansa. You think that's the case, though? I mean, are they communicating secretly through letters, or because it seems like they're really? It seems something's off for me. But
well, that's because we really weren't expecting Arya to come at it this way. We were more expecting her to be automatically on Sansa's side because they're family, I think. But she's going through her training and she's using all the tools that she developed as a Faceless Man in order to find out what's going on. She wants to make sure that she has her mission still. She has everything that she wants to do, and she has to know how to go about it. So she wants to know, is Sansa on her side or not? Where's Sansa coming from? Is she going to be able to trust her or not? Remember when she was going through and playing she called it the Faceless game or something that time, but didn't we used to call it the lying game? With Sansa, she never said, you know, the wife used to slap Arya every time she got a question wrong. And now this time, Arya didn't slap Sansa. She never gave any acknowledgement as to whether or not she believed her or not. She just moved on to the next question, and that's because she's trying to formulate what's going on. And that's really why I think they're not communicating outside of what we're seeing.
That's pretty interesting. I don't know. There's something that's been kind of off for every scene for me, and I think that secretly they've just been in communication. I mean, it seems like, you know, Arya learned quite a lot from Lady Crane, and in the play in Bravos while she was over there. Obviously, she learned a lot from the Faceless Men. I just think this is the play for the play they're putting on for Littlefinger at the current moment. We will dive a little bit more into this as well after. What do we want to move into next, Gemma? What do we want to move into next? Do we want to talk about a little bit about Tyrion and Daenerys? They have an interesting conversation as well. I mean, Tyrion is giving Daenerys a speech about succession, and not only that, about a few different things. Do we want to dive into that?
This is more of the Jon and Dany getting together, and this pregnancy baby tease that we're having. I think it was 3 separate occasions we had something in this episode that could have been considered as foreshadowing for a little Targaryen baby. We had Jorah, you know, give long claw to your kids. Then we have Dany discussing the potential succession with Tyrion. And then towards the end of the episode, there is the whole conversation, you know, the dragons are my children. I can't have children. You know what that means? And Jon says yes. And then he, googly eyes. And we don't actually, I mean, I'm actually working on an entire video just specifically on this topic, because, you know, the idea is that Dany can't have children. But maybe, you know, it would take the blood of the dragon to do that. Maybe the sun setting in the west. Well, yeah, you know,
but she can't have children. It's a really weird set of circumstances, right? So she can have children, and we're seeing some of those things already happening. So, I mean, you know, just follow up with that.
Yeah, absolutely. The sun setting in the east and rising in the west could simply mean that her time in Essos is done and her time in Westeros has begun. So that's easily done. You know, mountains blowing in the wind and all of that thing. We can definitely work with Miri Mazdur, but that, you know, and obviously there's book evidence that there's a potential miscarriage there, which is the womb quickening incident. So, but there is another question. You know, if Jon is sorry, Kyle, Firewhite, can he have children? Is Jon even fertile anymore? I mean, you know, this is another consideration, right?
Well, one thing that was interesting, I thought I noticed it the first time I didn't watch the league, but definitely caught it this time when I was watching it for real, because I got to see it on my big screen, was that a number of times when they hit whites up north, blood splattered, and they've been dead and frozen. So that was really curious for me, because we know that as far as fire whites go, that they've said that Beric's blood is not flowing through his veins anymore, you know. But for Jon, you know, we might find out something here very soon, because Arya or Dany's sitting there with him. He's just been stripped down. He's been messed up quite a bit. We'll find out some of this stuff, I have a feeling, pretty soon in the next episode, because that looks like what they're setting up.
I mean, yeah, it looks like, let's look at everyone in the chat. We have 360 viewers here. What's up, everyone? Thank you so much for joining us tonight. It looks like people think that the Firewhite stuff is fake news. I don't know if the chat is a mirror of my consciousness, but I'm just saying that I don't believe Jon is a Firewhite, and I don't know if people are just trying to trigger George or what's going on, but people are spamming the fake news emoji for the Firewhite. It is interesting though that they have brought up the children thing a couple of times this episode. It was really, really off-putting for me. It was like, okay, they're inserting that in. This is going to be a thing going forward. And I know some of you in the chat were saying only death can pay for life. We're going to talk about the death of Viserion after, and perhaps her losing one of her children means that she can have another one. We can talk about that after. That could possibly be a thing as well. Now, the thing is when they're talking about succession, something popped in my head, and Tyrion was talking about it. And, you know, Tyrion had that intimate moment with the dragon where he never got eaten. He's technically a snack to those dragons if he wanted to be. I've always thought that if any of the Targaryens or any of the Lannisters are Targaryen, it was going to be Tyrion, because of the conversation we heard with Tywin and Tyrion having the show. Is it possible that was kind of a thing that Jon and Daenerys both might die and Tyrion might become heir? Or, you know, in the end, it might just be Jon and Daenerys' heir, you know, a dream of spring. This is kind of the brighter future that we're going to see, a world rebuilt by the cripples, bastards, and broken things, if that's what we're going towards. What do you think about that, Gemma? Could you see a scenario where Jon and Dany don't have time to get married, and she just names someone else an heir? Or if she doesn't have the baby in time?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, getting pregnant and then having the time to, you know, go through the duration of said pregnancy and then giving birth to a healthy child, and then said healthy child, that hypothetical healthy child, then growing to an age where he or she could even take an Iron Throne. You know, we're talking some serious time. But with all the time jumps that have been going on, I wouldn't be surprised if they could somehow wangle that. I don't know. They have really been.
What did you just say? Wrangle or wangle?
Wangle.
I like it. Well done, Jim. Continue.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe the child is the Song of Ice and Fire. I don't know. I'm really not sure what would be the purpose. Cersei talked in the first episode about creating a dynasty. Tyrion said that what Dany is trying to create could perhaps take more than a lifetime. So I think it's a hope for the future, a future that we won't see in the series or even in the texts possibly, but it's that hope for a future that's being built.
The thing is for me, the reason why this sticks out, Gemma, is the original book was called A Time for Wolves, and then it got changed to A Dream for Spring. So what do you think about? I mean, that for me in itself is like, okay, did George decide he's going to make it even more bittersweet? The thing is, though, is a lot of people are thinking that it's going to be just a straight bitter ending. the way they're describing bittersweet, we got to remember that the word sweet is in the word bittersweet, meaning that there is going to be something positive that comes out of it. So I don't know. I mean, there was so much foreshadowing this episode, and there was like so many trails that they're trying to lead us on, because the way they have to achieve foreshadowing in the show is different. What do you think about this, George? I mean, these are some pretty big deals. I mean, we only got what, 7 episodes left in total. They gotta start addressing some of this stuff.
You know, there are a lot of big questions to answer as far as we're moving forward. You know, can Dany and or Jon have children? Who is going to be the heir? Are they going to get married? You know, what is the status of Jorah? Jorah hasn't. You know, I figured he would have been in the season earlier and would have run into you know, Lyanna Mormont prior to this. Just a lot of little things like that really are going to come back and start playing a major role in the story. And I thought would have been wrapped up this season, and it feels like now they're going to be pushing them out until next season. You know, so I don't know. I mean, I want to see it wrapped up, but.
And we have 420 viewers, 420 everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We actually have a donation from Dark Bastard, and it says this: a sunrise in the west equals rise of the Lord of Light in Westeros, and wall falling down, coming down. Seas drying up equals the freezing of this seas in the long night. That's really interesting. There's a few different ways that obviously prophecy can be interpreted. Obviously, prophecy can bite your cock off like a prick, or like a prick. You know, it could bite it off. Was it Melisandre that said that? Gemma, I can't remember if
it was Maester Marwyn, Archmaester
Marwyn, yeah, in the books. Someone else said it in the show, but I think they gave it to another character. Anyways,
someone in the chat brought this up a second ago, and I want to address it. They mentioned that is the dragon going to be a white walker rather than a white, because we actually saw the Night King go up and touch its head, and then its eyes turn blue, rather than him raise his arms and raise him like he's raised other creatures. So you know, I think that's you know, we may see him have more powers. We may see him be more like a real dragon than just a flying undead thing like that polar bear was.
And that was a super crazy scene too. But I think that they're obviously going to be exploring some more prophetic things in the final 7 episodes of the series. We know that they have to get to some of this stuff. And but geez, I mean, I don't know. I found that conversation really interesting too, even though it was a small conversation. It still had something that we really need to think about. Like, what if, you know, Daenerys dies? Who's going to be there to see her vision through for the realm? So I thought that was really interesting as well. Do we want to move on from that scene to possibly the next scene? I think it's the next scene is actually the Thoros of Myr scene, where he's getting savagely eaten by the polar bear. So they're north beyond the wall, and they're doing their ranging thing. I think they see. Do they see the mountain with the dragon that's shaped like the arrowhead yet? They're near there, and then obviously the storm is near, and boom, we see the polar bear basically come and ambush them. Wasn't pretty. We know that Sandor, obviously, when the bear is lit on fire, gives him quite the scare, and in that moment, Thoros dies and tries to protect Sandor, giving Sandor another chance at life. What did you guys think about this scene? Gemma, that was crazy, seeing like the size of that bear. Like, how do you deal with that? Like, it could have just pretty much killed everyone, really.
That jump scare, when that blind side, when the white red shirts running back towards the group, I jumped out of my skin when that bear just appeared from the mist and the snow with its blue eyes and its teeth and its half skeletal, and it's awful, but I did laugh a little bit when this flaming giant zombie white bear is stood in front of the Hound, and Sandor's just thinking, are you kidding me right now? He doesn't like fire, so when it's coming at you in the form of an undead zombie polar bear thing flaming, it's really like the last thing he could have done with at that moment in time. But yeah, Thoros, that was really hard to watch, wasn't it? That was like we moved into the realms of horror, sheer horror. That was just Oh, it was awful.
What did you think about it, George? Because they let that continue for quite a long time. Like the bear was just like going to town on him. It was pretty rough.
It was almost hard to tell which person the bear was attacking in a couple of moments. Was it the wildling? Was it Thoros? And that attack did go on real long, and it was very it was interesting to watch because it almost felt like that bear did more damage to that group by itself than all the other whites that they encountered. They have thousands and thousands of whites around, but this one bear sneaks up on them and then tears right through them like they're butter. So I mean, it looked cool as hell, and I was sad to see what happened. But wow, I mean, they were all jumping on it. Everybody was swinging at it. Like what? If there's more of those bears, they are really screwed. And we know that there are at least 2 giants, right? Imagine when we see them come at us.
So they got a polar bear. Imagine if they have ice spiders. How would you deal with those? Imagine ice spiders as big as hounds. How agile they must be. I'm assuming that we're going to see some next season because old Nan talks about them in her story. But I don't know. It's pretty interesting, right? I mean, we got to get some ice spiders. I think that we do. We're getting close to the record of 490 viewers live, which is awesome. We got 444. Go ahead.
We may even see an ice spider this season. I think one of the reasons that they even kind of came up with the idea of ice spiders to begin with was because the spiders can climb a wall. That's just something I was thinking about, was that ice spiders will climb the wall. But now that they have a dragon, maybe they don't need that.
Yeah, a dragon poses a bigger problem because it breathes fire. So,
can I lead into the most important thing? Do you guys, Gemma, do you think it was that the whole thing was a setup by the Night King to lure a dragon there? And I have my reason. I have 2 reasons why. One, he had the surface to air spears to take the dragons out with already loaded up on his horse. And 2, those giant chains were there. There's no other explanation for having those giant chains there already. Like they were hidden in the back and he was just waiting.
Absolutely, 150,000,000%. Absolutely. There's the moment, when Beric points at the Night King with his sword, and he stood there with his 4 guys behind him. There's 5 men, if you don't include the red shirts, and there's 5 walkers, and each of the walkers is stood there with an ice spear. There is nothing at that point stopping the walkers from just taking them out immediately, there and then, straight away. He's proved he's a good shot with his whole spear thing. So what are they stood there for? What are they waiting for? They're waiting for the dragons. Absolutely. I don't know how. Maybe it's a green seer kind of blood of the first men kind of thing. We theorize that the Night King has got these abilities. There's been some connections with Bran, but yeah, absolutely that they were waiting. They could have just taken them out like that, and they didn't. They were waiting. How they knew that the dragons were coming, I don't know, but they did.
We have 2 more donations, guys. Jay DeFeo, he says, thank you for the $10, Jay. It says, Viserion was a bleeding red star. Jon Snow was reborn amid smoke and salt. That's pretty interesting. I don't know if I take that as for fact, but it's definitely a possibility. And Kimmy Jane says, for $5, thank you so much. How do you think Dany will react to Viserion being alive after watching him, her, and it die? Will Drogon and Rhaegal attack or be kind of scared? I mean, we talked about it earlier. Daenerys views it as one of her children, and it's definitely something. I mean, she thinks that she can't have children anymore. So for her, it's this huge thing. It's this traumatic thing. I think that we should actually just move back just a little bit, because we actually have to talk about the scene where they're trying to ambush the White Walker, and where Gendry runs faster than he could ever row. He got the Eastwatch pretty fast. Me and Gemma were talking about this before the episode. That was hilarious. He collapses when he gets the Eastwatch. But what did you think about that? Because Gemma, me and you were talking about this, and George, we haven't had a chance to talk about this. But the second the White Walker is killed, all the whites around it are basically gone, and the White Walker acts like as a beacon, but there's still the one white there. So maybe that's the Night King controlling that one white. He still has, one dude left amongst all the whites. What did you think about that, Gemma? Because that's a huge revelation for me. The fact that Jon kills the White Walker and the whites kind of just dissipate. What do you think about that? That's huge.
Yeah, so, I mean, ultimately, the reveal from that scenario is that we need to kill the Night King in order to kill the whole undead army. We kind of already knew that we had to kill the Night King, so that's not like massively huge. It was a bit convenient, wasn't it? Just one's left, and they happened to, and that's where it started getting a bit really. That was very convenient. I'm not sure about and why there was this separated, detached party just wandering around on their own anyway was an issue for me, unless, like you said, I mean, the Walkers have got game, that they, you know, were maybe the ones setting the whole thing up from even this point, from when they were walking out there with that small group. There was also an incident, you know, where the Hound kicks the white that they have captured, and it groans, and then the whole horde, there's like a ripple of a groan that goes through the whole horde, which lends itself to this hive mind theory that a lot of us have suggested. It looked like they all felt the Hound's kick, but yeah, I mean, why there was only one left, you know, maybe a separated party takes one white that's not been turned by the White Walker who's looking after them, because then he can alert the hive mindy in his hive mindy way the rest of the group. Maybe I'm just looking too much into it to try and explain the convenience of one being left. I'm not really sure. That was a bit iffy for me.
George, what are your thoughts on this, man? Because this stood out to me as something that, you know, they might need to strategize for in the end game. Like, this is like something that, I mean, obviously we hear Beric say, you know, you need to take out the Night King because he raised them all. I mean, but does Valyrian Steel take out the Night King? Will the other White Walkers dissipate? Like, we don't know.
We don't know. I was really kind of disappointed that the Whites were able to just fall apart like that when their boss was killed. That reminded me way too much of a video game, and it actually kind of left me not like, I really didn't like it. And then of course randomly there is the one that was still okay, which was clearly raised by someone else, which you have to, I mean, it was convenient, but they're trying to move the plot along very quickly and do a lot in half the number of episodes that they were doing before. So, you know, there are going to be little things that are going to fall through. So you know, there are a couple things that, or there's one thing that's coming up in the chat over and over again. Longclaw did not blink. I watched it like 5 times. I put it on my biggest screen. The gems in his eyes, or in its eyes, are black, and there's a glare on them when it's lying on the ground outside of the water. So Longclaw didn't blink. You can kind of say maybe it did or something if you want to be really flashy about it, but literally it's a glare on the eye that makes it look white. It's reflecting the snow. So Longclaw didn't blink.
I don't know. I don't know. I think there's something tinfoily about that, man. I think that like Longclaw is just like living being type thing.
It's literally a reflection of the snow. It's literally a reflection of the snow, because I checked every time it showed up earlier in the show. I stopped it and I looked, and the eyes are black. The eyes are black. The eyes are black. The only time is right there, and you can see actually what it's reflecting. So, where did the chains come from? Anyone want to jump on that grenade? Where did the chains come from? I think it has to be from some boat that ran aground in the Shivering Sea, and the Night King was sitting there ready and waiting with them. Anybody else?
Go ahead, Gemma.
It was just another element of this episode that was massively convenient and to the point of distraction. Unfortunately, I am willing to suspend my disbelief. I'm into fantasy. Fantasy's my jam, so I'm clearly quite comfortable with suspending my disbelief. But when there are things that are just so glaringly, you know, plot holes more terrifying than zombie bears, when they're so glaringly obviously like, what, where did they come from? You know, instead of just enjoying the story and immersing myself into the story, I'm wondering how they've made some chains, you know. So it is distracting, it's clunky. I loved the episode, I really loved the episode, but I had so many problems with it too. I'm so torn. I am unless, like you said, they had them beforehand because they had them pre-prepared. But again, are we just trying to explain away bad writing here?
Yeah, can I ask everyone a question, panel, and everyone in the chat? I know the leaks have been this talked about subject. Do you think that, you know, I got spoiled for the episode. Some of you got spoiled, I know, because some of you got spoiled in my own comment section. Do you feel like the leaks took away from the big shocking moment in this episode? I don't know. I felt like it was an amazing moment, like when the Night King killed the dragon, in some of these other moments. But did you feel like it was less impactful? I don't know. I need everybody to tell me what they think on this one. I kind of feel like it.
For me, it wasn't, because we're really coming along into the show, and there are certain things that are happening, and they have to go on. I mean, like, if you haven't thought that a dragon was going to die, you eventually, I think you're really barking up the wrong tree. How many direwolves did we see die? And these are a major part of the show. So and the one that died, which one was it? It was Viserion, who was named after her brother, who was a jerk. I mean, like, he was the one who was going to die first. You kind of had to know it. And now we're going to watch what happens. Where do they go from? I wasn't surprised, but man, the way they did it with the fire neck, and then that huge amount of blood just dropping from its side as it was going down. That's really what I mean. You could have told me what would have happened to it, and I basically knew what was going to happen to it. But the way they pulled it off it looked amazing. It
was crazy. Like, who would have imagined the Night King would have just been like, all right, I'm just tracking you with my arm, and I'm just going to, like, it's super, obviously he's got an incredible amount of strength. He can manipulate ice. Maybe the ice is like some sort of form of super light ice that's aerodynamic. I don't know the exact physics behind it. Maybe someone will make a video on if it's possible or not. But I don't know. I was like, what? I mean, still for me, I felt like, because I got spoiled, it took away from the impact for me. And it seems like there's about 70% of you in the chat that agree with that. What about you, Gemma?
But I think that the leaks took away from a lot of those big wow moments that might have been more incredible. Well, they definitely would have been more incredible if I didn't know that they were going to happen. Of course, we need to see it to see, like George said, how it's going to be executed. And like the loot train attack in particular, for me, was executed absolutely beautifully in a very breathtaking and sort of almost disquieting way when you saw the horror unraveling of that, and that's something that a paragraph on Reddit or wherever it's being leaked cannot capture in the way that the show is going to do. But yet, to an extent, the leaks did spoil it. I did watch this episode earlier on in the week. I wasn't going to do it. I didn't do it the last time that an episode was leaked. But this, I got so many comments on my YouTube channel that were literally just blatantly telling me exactly what was going to happen, like scene by scene in my comments section. And it got to the point where I thought, I might as well just flipping watch this, because it's if the leaks haven't spoiled it for me, this certainly has. But it's an occupational hazard, isn't it? I've chosen to be a YouTuber and talk about this. People are going to reach out and talk to me about it. So yeah, you've just had a donation, Kyle.
Let's check this out. Let's go into the chat. I can't see it. Why can't I see it? For some reason, I can't see it, Gemma.
Are you a little bit slower than me? That's unusual.
Oh my!
You've seen it.
That's a huge donation. Holy jeez! Ryan Robbins just wanted to say thanks from down under. Thanks for all of the hard work. $100 Australian. Am I correct on that one, Gemma? Does A stand for Australian?
That's what it looks like. Yeah. How generous! Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ryan. Yeah, man, if you have a question, let us know, man. Thank you. Wow, that is incredible. Thank you so much. Hype and love, everyone. Jeez, spam those fire and heart emojis in the chat. Sorry, Gemma, I lost track because I was just blown away by that donation. Where were we? Sorry.
And I'm also distracted and blown away. We need more love and little fire emoji things in the chat. I want to see the whole chat, full of them. How many have we got in the chat now? 431. Wow,
You know,
thank you for joining us. It's now 10 to 4 in the morning. It's not quite light yet, but it will be soon.
Yeah, we aren't going to go super, super late for you guys tonight, but we really, really appreciate you being here. There's like 7 other YouTube channels that are bigger than this one live streaming, and 430 of you chose to be here, which is amazing. So we're really, really happy and thankful for that. Okay, let's go on to a few more scenes. We're going to talk more about the Night King and the dragon stuff after. Do we want to go back to Winterfell and kind of discuss the other stuff we were talking about earlier? Where do we want to go next? I mean, we can finish off all the Night King and Viserion stuff. But I don't know. I kind of want to talk about Sansa discovering Arya's bag under her bed with the faces and stuff like that. While the phrase face, I don't know who the other face is. Is it one of the other phrase? I'm not sure. But wow. And then Arya, that's the moment she was playing the game that the Waif played with her about lying with Sansa. And that's when, I believe, when she gave her the dagger, that she determined that she was basically Arya was basically telling her, "I'm at your command. If you need, let's go through with our plan to take out Littlefinger." So, what are your thoughts about that, Gemma?
Yeah, I think that's what that was. I'm not sure. I mean, Sansa seemed genuinely quite freaked out to see a dead man's face in her sister's handbag. It's not generally one of the required items that you would find in a woman's handbag, is it? It's I don't know how much of this they've discussed off camera. I mean, when Bran, Sansa, and Arya had their little conversation, and Bran confirmed to Sansa that this list that they'd just been laughing about was a real thing, Sansa was smiling. Who else is on your list? And she's smiling, and Sansa's pretty dark. That whole Ramsay dog thing. We need to remember that Sansa's not this naive, innocent girl anymore. So I'm not sure how she would react if Arya told her exactly what she'd been getting up to and what she could do and what she was capable of. What I thought was interesting was that Sansa made a point of shutting the door, and it creaked very loudly when she did that. And then the next thing, Arya stood there. Now, either Arya was always in the room the whole time, or Arya managed to gain entry to said room without making a sound, which is the Arya we know. That's how stealthy Arya is. She's been trained to do this, which is why I believe she purposely allowed Littlefinger to see her stealing the letter from his room the prior week. And she knew he was there. There's no way she wouldn't, if she can sneak into a room completely unheard, how is Littlefinger seeing a faceless assassin do that? It's a play, definitely.
I think it's a play too, George, because we saw that Littlefinger saw Arya almost take down Brienne, and he recognized, obviously, that those are very, very bravosy moves. But do you think that, last season we heard Sansa and Jon have the conversation where Sansa says, "No one can protect me." Maybe that was foreshadowing, but maybe Sansa and Arya got together and Sansa felt like she could send Brienne away. We're going to talk about that in just a moment. Because Arya almost bested Brienne, she felt like in that situation, Arya could protect her. I mean, her giving her the dagger, that to me is like, hey, let's move forward with our plans. What do you think about this scene?
Well, I think this is really, kind of more evidence that they're not working together very clearly, because Arya is really trying to test Sansa, find out about her, and she wants Sansa. Arya let Sansa find the stuff in her bag. She was able to hide Needle from all the faceless men for the entire time she was in Bravos. But Sansa finds the faces. She wanted the reveal. She wanted to be able to let Sansa in on the secret, and she didn't know a better way to do it. So she's still testing her. She's still trying to find out where she's coming from, what she can and can't let her know. And she's really just let her know that what she's doing, what her powers are. She has a kill list. She really did kill them. She really can sneak around. She really is this amazing person. And if she didn't want Sansa to know, she wouldn't have let her. Similarly, when we see her following Littlefinger around, she's purposely letting him see her because she wants him to think that he's up on her game, right? So we're watching these two different sides of Arya go on. Arya has her own plan that's working outside of anything else with her brothers or sisters. So if they come in, if Sansa is able to come in and be a part of it, that's going to be fine. But Arya isn't worried about it. She's going for the whole thing on her own.
You know, it's really interesting the fact that Arya let Sansa find the bag. It's like the same situation where Arya finds Littlefinger's letter. It's kind of the same scene in reverse. But we have another donation. I know Gemma wants to get in on the Brienne stuff. She has something absolutely amazing that she wants to say about that. But we have a donation here, and it's from I don't know how to pronounce this. The Druids. I don't know. I don't know how to pronounce that. You tell me how to pronounce that in the chat. Love you guys so much. I am afraid your brilliant theories are in vain due to shit writing. I will be so disappointed if it turns out Arya is being played by Littlefinger. Yeah. I don't know. We'll see in the next episode. I have a feeling that Littlefinger is going down. Gemma, you said you had. Thank you so much for the donation. By the way, let me know how I say that in the chat. But Gemma, take it away with your Brienne stuff.
I'm not sure if it's absolutely brilliant. This is my thought train with the Brienne stuff. Obviously, we get Littlefinger, and he says, you know, he essentially kind of tells Sansa to set Brienne onto Arya. I mean, that's what I got from that conversation. And then, of course, we see that Sansa then uses the opportunity of Cersei's invitation to send Brienne away. Now, when Sansa and Brienne first, it was ages ago now. It was when Theon and they jumped off Winterfell, and when Brienne first knelt to Sansa and basically pledged herself to her service. Part of the vows that they had to say, and Podrick had to kind of remind Sansa of the words. It was a very endearing scene. And one of the promises that Sansa made to Brienne was that she would never ask of her anything that, I can't remember the exact wording, but she would never ask of her anything
that would dishonor her.
Yeah, that would besmirch her honor, essentially. And she knows that Brienne is a very honorable woman. And I believe that Sansa is planning to do something that Brienne might not like, might not want to be involved in. And to protect Brienne and to keep the promise that she's made to Brienne, I think that's why she's getting her out of the way, because she doesn't want to ask her of something that would besmirch her honor.
So can you let us, do you have a theory video that you're doing through this, or do you want to wait to kind of release it on your channel? You're kind of just going to leave us all hanging, or do you want to drop the nuclear right now on us?
No, I'm gonna write all this up in my channel, and this will be, but I mean, you go ahead and expand on that as you will.
Well, I know George has something to say about this too, so we'll let George go.
About Arya and Brienne?
Yeah.
And Sansa? Well, I think what we're really seeing is that Littlefinger's trying to break them apart. He's trying to use Brienne as the splitting point for the two of them. And Sansa has to know what's going on. This is like I was saying the other day in our previous streams. Littlefinger has really played himself out. He has nothing left at this point, and he really is trying anything he can, almost desperately, to be able to get people to side with him. And remember in last episode we saw him talking to one of the heads of the Northern Houses and Bronze Yohn Royce and all these different things as he was going around the castle trying to find things out and set things up. Well, the game is over for him, and I think we've finally seen it now. Arya and Sansa are finally going to have a talk, because now Arya trusts her, and they're going to decide what to do. And I think it's game over for Littlefinger.
Yeah, I think he's run out of plays, right? I mean, he had more of these options in King's Landing where he could kind of maneuver. King's Landing's a little bit bigger than than the Winterfell, and obviously the people of the North have a different disposition to the people in King's Landing. We hear everybody talk shit about King's Landing, actually, and about how bad it smells and how much violence and how dangerous it is and how the kings and queens don't care about their people and whatnot. So it's really interesting. But I think the panel is in agreement that Littlefinger, we're all in agreement that Littlefinger's a goner next episode, right? I mean, there's no way he survives until next season with what he's trying to accomplish with Arya. Arya is like a cruise missile of death right now. Nobody can. I don't think there's too many people that can stop her. All right, next we're going to go to Dragonstone, and we see what we were talking about earlier be confirmed, the conversation between Tyrion and Daenerys. Daenerys talks about being heroic and how people are being heroes are stupid and how they die. And then she goes and basically contradicts herself. And she's like, no, I need to go save these people and become heroic and do that. What are you guys' thoughts about this? I mean, she was dressed in a very interesting outfit. Is this foreshadowing that perhaps she might become the Night's Queen? I don't know. Maybe that's some tinfoil. You guys know I like that one. Fake news and the emojis in the chat are coming. I hear it. Gemma, we can't hear you right now. But go ahead, George, until Gemma fixes her audio.
No, I was waiting to hear what Gemma said.
Okay.
Am I back?
You're back.
Sometimes my mic does that. I'd just like to say very briefly before I launch into this, I really enjoyed the episode, okay? I'd just like to make that clear before I go off, because you've triggered me. Right, okay. Let me get this. Gendry runs to Eastwatch, right? He then writes a message on a raven, and I don't know what he's writing because he doesn't know that Jon and the crew are surrounded by whites because he wasn't there. He didn't see that. So maybe he's just saying they're in danger. I don't know. And then that raven flies all the way to Dragonstone, which is quite a way away. And then Dany gets the message, magically produces this amazing winter wardrobe that she just happens to have on standby because, I might have gone north of the wall at some point. She was completely planning to do that, right? No, she wasn't. And she gets...
It's wolf hide, in case you didn't tell.
Okay, it was a beautiful dress, but where the hell she got that from, I don't know. She has time to have a chat with Tyrion. Then she gets on her dragons and then manages somehow to get all the way back to the wall without so much as a pee break. And then she goes beyond the wall and then she finds Jon and the crew in the vast miles and miles and miles of wilderness that is beyond the wall, right at the exact moment that she's needed, and this takes a night. Really? I'm sorry, but someone else needs to take over at this point because I'm done.
George, go ahead.
I think when we were chatting the other day, we actually kind of laid it out on the map and tried to figure out how many miles it would be and how long it would actually take a raven. Wasn't it something like 14 hours minimum for a raven to get from there to Dragonstone? And that was minimum. So then setting everything up, getting Dany dressed, getting out to the dragons, going through security, having the TSA check her out, loading her up, flying her back off. And even if the dragons could fly at twice the speed, the whole thing minimum would have taken at least 24 hours. And you're right. What was the pee break? Where's the saddle on these freaking dragons at this point? How are people not just falling off? And they fly up there in the cold, holding on with their freezing hands. I mean, I rode a bike in the snow, and your fingers freeze off. You can't just hold on.
I know that because I live in the lands of always winter, man. Oh my God, we get like minus 40-degree weather, man. Come on, dude, it's rough.
So I mean, no food, no nothing. It's just. You have to overlook it just so you can enjoy that part of the movie, because otherwise, or the show, because otherwise there's no way. There's just no way. And then, the funniest part was when the Hound just takes the white and just slaps him down on one of the spines. And I'm just like, oh, how are you guys holding on? Where's your seatbelts,
Can we talk about Sandor for a second? I think I'm going to say it right now. Let's do our MVPs of the episode, and we'll continue to talk about the episode. But Sandor was my MVP of the episode. Like, come on, he threw a rock. He threw a rock, and it hit a White in the head. And then they knew to go across the lake. Come on, that's gotta be like the most hilarious moment of the episode. He calls the White a cunt. That was hilarious.
Has Sandor been reading how to fuck things up through boredom by Bran Stark or something? I mean, that was so stupid. So stupid. MVP was Jon's chest, even with the scars. And somebody in the chat very early on in that conversation said that. I've got a screenshot of that. I think that's Jon's chest. I've cut off his head. I think that's going to be my new screensaver.
Is your husband still around, by the way? Does he know how far your obsession goes for Jon Snow?
Yeah, he does. I've asked him to grow his hair and grow a mustache and a beard, and he won't do it.
Oh my god, man! They had to cut Jon out of his clothes. By the way, like that was like he was like mummified, frozen in his clothes.
Frozen. All the noise was like all crackling and stuff.
But let's be honest. Kit Harington is a good-looking guy. We can all agree on that. He's a handsome chap. I know that's what they say in the UK is chap. I'm trying to adjust my language so it sounds proper. But yeah, I mean, obviously that scene is pretty interesting. You know, we see Thoros die. Unfortunately, his wounds freeze over and he freezes to death. Were you okay with the fight, George? Did you feel like the fight scene was good enough? I mean, Tormund almost dies. We get Sandor using Gendry's hammer. We have Jon and Jorah, who are kind of side by side fighting it out.
You know, it was what it was. The only way you can explain it is that the Night King let it happen, because I think we know what his freezing powers kind of are. He could have frozen that lake solid, like all the way down to the bottom at any point he wanted to. He was waiting for the dragons to get there. He had to have been. But when they're fighting with everybody, we see them all start out with their regular weapons. I really think there was a scene shot, either last episode or this episode, that they left out, where it shows them taking a significant amount of dragon glass and turning it into kind of makeshift weapons. If you look at what Tormund's holding when the Whites drag him down towards the water, he gets back up, and it looks like it's his same axe handle, but there's 3 rows of black on there now that look like it's 3 rows of black dragon glass that have been attached on there rather than the axe head that was there.
Jorah has 2 daggers. There's
sword, and he picks up 2 daggers instead. The Hound drops the hammer, and in exchange for what looks like a little axe handle with a piece of dragon glass on it. So, unfortunately, I think we've just found out that dragon glass does work on Whites, whereas before we were led to believe that it doesn't. So now we're seeing that it does. So everything we've heard about arrows and spears and stuff made from dragon glass, that might all be effective now. I mean, they may have a whole new tool. But other than that, the fight scene was good. You know, I'm getting a little tired of the cavalry literally flying in at the last second to take things over. We saw that in the Battle of the Bastards with the Knights of the Vale showing up at the last second, and now again with these dragons. But it makes for good showmanship. It sure is a hell of a lot of fun to watch.
Agreed. Gemma?
Yeah, I've got a bit of tinfoil actually, and I just wanted to drop this in real quick and see what people think. You guys are agreeing with me, and the majority of the chat are all saying that you're saying the same. It was a setup. The Night King was waiting. Blah blah blah. Who led them there? Who foresaw all of this, and where did they see it? Why were that group of people there in the first instance? They were there because the Lord of Light had shown them where to go. He'd shown them the mountain. The Hound had seen the arrow-shaped mountain. They'd gone there because their Lord of Light had told them. And yet who's waiting for them? Not a Lord of Light. The Night King is waiting for them. Maybe the Lord of Light is the Night King showing people visions in the flame.
You know what's interesting too? 1 second. That mountain is actually the backside of the mountain where the Night King got turned into the Night King by the Children of the Forest. If you actually, I put it in that video. People, it's actually the same spot. If you go behind the mountain, that's where the altar is in the tree with all the rock formation. Go ahead, George.
Well, what I was going to say was, it may not be the Lord of Light, but the Lord of Light may have directed them there because all that stuff had to happen in order for Dany to bring the dragons around to fight on his side. Because prior to that, she was wavering. She didn't want to do it. The moment she saw all of the undead and everything there, she's changed her mind. She doesn't need Jon to bend the knee. She understands now. She says it herself that this is the much bigger cause, right? So, I think that more than the Night King being the Lord of Light is probably what brought them there. And we can go back to my whole little idea that the Lord of Light is actually one of the aspects of the many-faced God, and that Bran is the many-faced God, seeing all this stuff and acting on it throughout history.
So you think that Bran was the one directing them there? That'd be super interesting to you. Some people think Bran is the Night King. I don't agree with that theory at all. I think it's interesting, but some people have come up with some interesting stuff. In the chat, I would like to say hello to Raised Alba. What's going on, dude? And Gemma's tinfoil is so much better than some of the writing in the episode, says Leslie Powell. Oof, that's a hard one. Go ahead, George. Sorry.
Well, no, I think that there was some good merit when Nex first kind of gave us that idea that Bran was the Night King, but I think much more likely now that he's not the Night King, but he is the Lord of Light, and he is a couple of the other aspects of gods that we see, because we know that he has the power to communicate to people through dreams and visions and things like that, and even to other people while they're alive and walking around, like what he did to his father at the Tower of Joy. So someone had to have given the Hound that vision. He got it, and Gemma, you're 100% right. It had to have been the Lord of Light who sent him there for a reason. But I think it was to be able to bring Dany and those fire creatures, those dragons, in on the side that they needed to be on.
So you think that, obviously, it's kind of the kill the boy, let the man be born moment with Daenerys. She now knows that, like, her letting go of Jon's hand after is her letting, she needs to let go of the idea of the Iron Throne at some point, if there is going to be an Iron Throne in the end. Otherwise, the Night King's going to make sure that none of that happens, right? Essentially. Gemma, this scene, there's so much. The CGI was obviously amazing in the scene. We finally get our first taste of the dragons against the White Walkers. I think we know that we're going to get a lot of that next season. Me and George actually interviewed Paula Fairfield, and she said their budget's unlimited next season, and we know that we're getting larger episodes next season, 80 to 90 minutes long, possibly even longer. Did this scene cinematically, was it good for you? It was fulfilling to me cinematically. I know there's been some plot holes in the episode. I know it wasn't perfect, but still, I feel like cinematically it was like, wow, this is finally what we've been waiting for: dragons versus White Walkers.
Yeah, we finally saw fire being brought to ice, didn't we? And that was great. I really enjoyed that. I must say enjoyed isn't the right word, but I felt that the loot train was more visually spectacular. Maybe because there were so many more elements of the loot train that weren't CGI, if that makes sense. Obviously, there was a lot of CGI, dragons and stuff, but it was good. A lot of it was distracted by the writing and by the plot holes and things. There was some really great camera angles, some fantastic angles, like shot from down below, shot from above. And then that pan where you could see the little bit in the middle where they're all stood and they're all coming in, and that was good. I really felt for Jon when he got out of the water and he's blue in the face and he's stiff and he can barely walk, and that essentially that's a death sentence unless he gets out of there really quickly, being out there soaking wet from head to foot. That was great. You've got another donation, Kyle.
Yes, we see it's from Kevin Gabriel. You think the Night King shot at the flying dragon instead of the sitting dragon because that would actually lead to a dragon death? The blood loss and the fall causes the death of Viserion? I mean, I don't know. I mean, maybe he thought that Viserion, because of the way he was moving, he thought that the impact of the spear might do more damage than him directly hitting Drogon. Maybe he thought that Drogon might melt the spear and detect the spear because I mean, Jon was right there, letting everyone know that the Night King was coming. What are your thoughts about that, Gemma?
Yeah, I'm really, he was stood right in front of Drogon. Drogon was grounded. Drogon had all the humans on him, and he chose to, aim at the other dragon instead. I think Drogon just had too much plot armor, so he thought it'd be best to hit the other one instead. I'm really grateful, however, that Drogon knows how to zigzag. That was a relief. But, George, what do you think?
I wondered about that, and I think it's part of what the Night King sees in the future. It's why he came there prepared. It's what he knew was going to happen. That was the dragon that the Night King knew he was going to capture. So why even bother to try to take the other one? He knew that's the one he was going to get. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it, because otherwise, why not hit the one on the ground with everyone on it, with the Queen of Dragons, with everyone there? He knows who Jon is. He's run into him multiple times. Take out that dragon, and he takes out all of his enemies. Instead, he took out the smallest one, and I think it's because he knew that that's the one that was in his future.
Something about the Night King in the future, I mean, we discussed this a little bit before the episode and earlier on in the week, that the Night King is a green seer. I think that him being there, like, they're just sitting there on the mountaintop. They're just waiting there. And Beric is like, that's the guy that we need to take out. But he's just standing there. He's just like, all right, come at me, bro. Like the same thing at Hardhome. You know what I mean? Like, he knows where to go.
He's not just standing there at this point. He's literally standing there waiting with those special spears to take down the dragons. I mean, that's what they're made for, and that's part of what he's doing at that moment. He's literally waiting and watching. He could have taken out the guys on the little island at any point, because he could have just had all of his dead. Look at that overhead shot. There are so many undead there, and we know that they can walk underwater now, but they could have all just stacked up and filled up that lake to the point that he could have overtaken the island if he wanted to, and then just had them all walk out. There was a bigger plan in place, and it has to be that he was going after Viserion specifically.
He was going after a dragon 100%. I don't know. It was. He has some foresight, man. The thing is, I've always thought of him as the Night King kind of had this loop about his mission from the Children of the Forest, but I think he's way more than that. Like, strategically, intelligently, something else is going on there that we need to know about, because that was some good planning. Before we move on to my favorite hand-holding scene of the series, do we want to any final points about the dragon dying? Obviously, it's going to be a huge problem. Do we think the wall's going to fall in the next episode? I think so. I think this is going to be a problem.
Yeah, the wall's definitely coming down, but the bigger thing that bugged me was that when he threw the spear, with all the work that these CGI guys are doing to make it look amazing, they gave it a flat trajectory, like it didn't arc at all. So it was almost more like it was a rocket, and it didn't look right to me. It just went totally straight, and it just looked wrong. So I wish
it just looked so odd. He looked like Zeus. It was
yeah, it was, and that bugged me. But that's a minor quibble.
I'm so torn about the dragons right now, because when we saw the loot train attack, that there's a part of me thinking, these dragons are destructive beasts that are really designed to kill, and no good can come from this. And yet then when I saw Viserion, descending downward, and the blood, and Dany's face, but not just Dany, Jorah's face, even Tormund was horrified, and Jon was devastated, and I that actually upset me so much more than I could ever have possibly imagined it would have. That I was really, wow, that was so sad when it kind of the last little whimper as he kind of slid into the lake. That was, but I'm really confused. I mean, is he a ice dragon? Is he a white dragon? Does he breathe ice? Does he breathe fire? What's the deal? We don't know what happens, do we now? What kind of creature has the Night King created in this dead dragon now? What exactly is the deal? I mean, dragon fire would probably be really handy against the wall, but could the Night King just fly over the wall now? Is this going to negate the magic? I don't know. So many questions.
It could be possible that he melts part of the wall, or he flies around the wall near Eastwatch. We know that Eastwatch, the sea the waves are supposed to be frozen over there, and I know there's been some theories about them possibly doing that, which would be kind of counterproductive to there being a big, huge 700-foot wall. But I don't know. I mean, what do we think in the chat? Is the wall going to fall the next episode? I think it has to for the story to progress for season 8, right? Everybody's in agreement for that. All right, we're going to move on to the last 2 scenes. Next, we obviously see Daenerys is watching over on the wall, and she's waiting for Jon, obviously. I think at this point we know that Daenerys is in love with Jon, and Jorah is there supporting Daenerys, and we see that Jon escapes because of Uncle Benjen. Uncle Benjen's last stand is a big thing. So Benjen's story is over, unfortunately, but I think ultimately that's what it came down to. He was going to try to help Jon in some way against the White Walkers. And then we obviously see that Daenerys is pretty freaking happy that Jon is alive, as was I and many other people. And then we get the scene on the boat. I'm going to let you take this one, Gemma. I really enjoyed this scene. I always thought that they would have a romantic connection, but it felt natural to me. It didn't feel like, it felt like, wow, like they could be good together. You know what I mean? And it felt like, they for each other, they both have things that they need to change in their minds to be more successful in their endeavors, and I think that they complement each other well. What do you think about that?
And the Benjen bit was very sad. I mean, is this a record? Was that literally the fastest death after a return of a character we've not seen for several episodes? And I don't know if you noticed, but Jon Snow's last stand theme from the Battle of the Bastards, where he's got his sword and the horses are charging, and that rising crescendo of music. Benjen got a very somber version of that theme tune as he performed his personal little last stand there, and that's sort of echoed that Stark thing that they often play with, that with the Stark men. So yeah, that was definitely with the feels. I mean, we haven't talked about, but Jon hasn't talked about Uncle Benjen for a long time. But book readers will know that Jon had always hung on to the hope that Benjen was still alive. So that's just another an added devastation to this whole situation. That the scene between Jon and Dany, it was good. It was really good, and I hate myself because I'm shipping them so hard. And I'm like, but that's his auntie, but I'm shipping them anyway. And Jon with his all smooey.
Oh, Gemma, your audio is cutting out again. Mute, unmute. Nope, it's not working right now. Gemma, try again.
Any good? Am I back?
There we go.
This is really annoying. I'll have to check my mic out. Do you know what? I was just getting all gushy about Jon Snow again. You need to take it. You need to take over before I embarrass myself.
Well, George, obviously Uncle Benjen is gone. We didn't get to see too much more of him, but he was, obviously plot armor for Jon to survive a couple more times. Well, he helped Bran out too. But what was your thought on the Daenerys and Jon scene? Do you think that it's finally now Daenerys is finally giving up the thought of the Iron Throne because of Jon? I mean, she releases his hand. Why does she do that?
Well, I don't think that she's giving up the thought. She's holding on to his hand because she wants to hold him there and make sure he's safe. And the moment she knows he's safe, she's able to let go of him for a moment and just look at him. But the bigger thing is she's clearly not giving up the Iron Throne, but she realizes that there won't be a kingdom for her to rule if she doesn't go and take part in the attack that the White Walkers are bringing down from the north. She has to stop them first. Whether or not Cersei wants to help, whether or not anyone else wants to help, they're going to try and set up that meeting to bring everybody in, but that's really going to be their next step. Are they going to be able to stop the White Walkers? Into it 100%. And I think that with that group of people, Jorah, Dany, Beric, who's come back to life, Jon, who've seen the dead now, are all going to be working together to stop it.
Well, I mean, this is kind of leading forward to, obviously, you know, Sansa sent Brienne to King's Landing, and we know that a bunch of other people have to get to King's Landing. They all have to meet together if they're really going to deal with this situation. We know that every single army has basically been decimated because they're in war against each other, the Seven Kingdoms, that is. And I think that, you know, we're finally at the point where Daenerys, this is the second time she said she would fight for Jon, but now she legitimately sees it after she loses a dragon. And, you know, Jon is trying to console her in that moment, but still, I think that, you know, it's like her losing a child. Like she said, this was a child for her. But I don't know. Things are getting steamy between the two of them, and I think that we're going to see next season when Jon figures out that he's Targaryen and she figures out, I don't know. I think that it's just going to be a thing. I just tweeted out Daenerys on Twitter, by the way, as well, and I'm just waiting to see how many people hate that tweet. I'm going to see how many people don't like that. We're going to move on to the final scene of the episode, and this one was super, like, perplexing. You know what I mean? How the hell did they get that big change, Emma? And now the Night King has a dragon. This is a problem. So let's take it away.
And also, how the hell did they get to the bottom of that lake to attach said chain to said dragon? I mean, I don't know. Like I said earlier on, this is, instead of watching that scene, because I mean, I took a lot of screenshots of that particular scene, that final scene, and cinematically it was beautiful. You know, the dragon, the frozen dragon being pulled out of the lake, the leading lines of the chains that they've got set up were absolutely gorgeously done. But instead of enjoying that as part of the story, I'm thinking, where the hell did they get chains from, and how the hell did they get to the bottom of the lake to attach the chains to the dragon? And this spoils it, and it is a shame, but it was beautifully done. I mean, we all knew what was coming when the Night King started walking towards the dragon. We knew that was happening, and then that final shot with the eye, which is a callback to all of the adverts and trailers that we had before the season started. They were all about the eyes, weren't they? They were, Jon, Cersei, and Daenerys were closing their eyes. There was the giant white Night King, whatever we decided that was in the end. I still think it was a giant. Then there was the poster with the Night King and his eye. It's all been about the eyes, and I think that it was all leading up to this moment. It was all leading up to the Night King getting what he needs, I suspect, to take down the wall. And wow, the South is not going to know what hit it.
Rickard Hammer in the chat, and we got a donation after this, says that the chains came from Hardhome. Can you expand a little bit on that? I'm would like to know how you figured that out. That's pretty interesting. And also, we got a donation from Aaron. My God, Aaron, we love you so much. Everybody in the chat, donation hype and love, hearts and fire. That's how we do it here. She says, gush on, Gemma. Please go on about Jon Snow. George, what are your thoughts on this scene, man? This is a really interesting one. This one confused me. When I saw those chains, I was like, whoa, like that was something I would have never expected. Like, okay, I thought maybe he would just rose the dragon, like, you know, the dragon would just rose out of the water and flew out or something. I never expected those chains.
Yeah, I didn't expect the chains either, but the chains really signal to us that there has to have been a second level of thought and planning on the part of the Night King. He has to have known that those chains need to be there, because you don't just drag giant chains like that with you everywhere through the lands of always winter, you know? So wherever he got them from, Hardhome or from a shipwrecked boat or whatever it might be, they did get them. They were there, and he did use them. He and his guys used them to pull the dragon out of the water. It's, you know, you knew it was coming. you didn't necessarily know they were going to use chains, but you knew that they were going to pull him out somehow, and that they were going to turn Viserion.
It's interesting, man. Aren't those chains very similar to the ones they use with the lances, like the size on the walls on the wall? That's pretty interesting.
Absolutely. There are chains like that out there somewhere, and they found them. I don't know where, but they did.
I need to know where these chains came from. It's like triggering me. I need to know, like, because it may be if they came from one of the castle walls or something like that, or somewhere way beyond the wall where there's some sort of, I don't know, the lands of always winter where there's a castle or something. Gemma, go ahead.
Maybe the chains were made out of ice.
You think that they're just black ice?
I don't think they were, but maybe they were supposed to be. I don't know. Just thinking out loud.
And the two places they most likely came from are either from a shipwreck, or we know that the Night King and his team were all in Hardhome recently, and there are big boats there. There is a harbor there. There is stuff like that. So perhaps the chains were guarding that harbor or something, and they found them there. That you're going to have to settle for a maybe. That's where they came from right now. Until we get an actual, we may never get the actual.
It's really interesting, and this is one of the more interesting comments that I've had in a while. And I've been thinking about this for a long time. I've always thought that the Night King and Bran would kind of do some, or Jon, the Night King, and whoever was left at the end of the series, Isle of the Faces would be something that they needed to include in the end game. And Blackthorn says, Azor hype, Ice Dragon can now freeze the water surrounding the Isle of Faces. That is why he needed a dragon. Hardhome, mate. It's a port. So he's thinking that all of this is leading to the Isle of the Faces and the water around the Isle of the Faces, and they need to freeze it because he needs to get there, get some sort of information, break a curse, whatever. What do you think about that? I mean, what is his final motive, really? Does he really want to kill everyone? Are we going to find out more? Like, does he want to get the dragon glass taken out of his chest so they can all just, like, because George, you said the other day, you kind of feel like it's going towards where they actually want to be killed.
Yeah, I think either they actually want to be killed because they've been around so long, or they were twisted into that situation, and they can't just die. So I think it's very possible that they're looking to actually find a way to lose the battle, or not lose the battle, but to be defeated so that they can let their souls pass on. The whole thing is very interesting in that we don't know really who the good guys are and who the bad guys are. George R. R. Martin has tried to make sure that that's never been truly clear the entire time, and everyone has some good and some bad in them. But I really can't wait to find out what the final motivation is for the White Walkers. Why did the Children of the Forest make them in the first place? Really, like, not just situation that caused it. And then why are they doing what they're doing? Do they even care? And was there a pact that was broken? What aspect of history changed?
We don't know that 8,000-year period. You know what I mean? Where it's like, oh, this is what happened. Okay, this is how we can explain things. I don't know. This episode was definitely interesting, though. I mean, it opened more questions for me than answers, really.
I really don't think that this Night King is the same as the one who was the 13th commander of the Night's Watch, nor the original Night's King. I think this is a brand new Night King. I think that he's only a couple hundred years old at most. All of his followers are Craster's children, and created for a specific reason to come and stop Bran. He's there to stop something specific, and that's what's going on, and they're following through on their mission in the meantime.
Did we miss any of the scenes in the episode, Gemma? I mean, I think we went over pretty much everything. Did we have any more points that we wanted to make specifically in any of the scenes before we moved on?
I think we pretty much covered it. I mean, it was all north except for the couple of scenes at Dragonstone, wasn't it? And I enjoy all the north stuff. I'm quite on board with having a north heavy episode. It's the Night King and Beyond the Wall stuff has always been the thing that's fascinated me most. But yeah, I think we covered all the scenes, I can't think of anything standing out.
Now, I know it's super, super late for you, Gemma. It's like, what, 5 something in the morning?
It is 25 to 5 in the morning.
So it's super late for Gemma, and we're at the point now where we've kind of discussed the episode. Did we want to take a few questions, or do we want to move the question period on over to Thursday? So we're going to take a few questions, and then, guys, remember, we actually do have a live stream on Thursday night as well. So we will be doing that as well. But let's take a few questions from the chat. I know all of you have been wanting to ask your questions and talk about the episode, and we've been trying to monitor all of your awesome comments as much as we can. But let's go to the chat. Let's go see what we can find. Yeah. All right. All right. And thank you so much for the donations, everyone, so far. Wow, amazing. Ryan donated $100. We had a $20 donation from Aaron again. Amazing. Leslie Powell says, Azor High, Varys seems powerless without his little birds. He's drinking with Tyrion even now. Will we see them again, and will Varys regain control of his little birds? What do you think about that?
Well, they're all meeting up at King's Landing next week, aren't they? I don't know who Dany's going to take with her, but if she does take Varys, maybe he'll have an opportunity to meet back up with his little birds. I'm not sure. But yeah, he does seem, he's definitely lost his mojo. He's not really the same Varys that we remembered, but it's the same for Littlefinger, isn't it? They've kind of taken them out of King's Landing, and they seem to have lost their power somewhat. So, yeah, it'd be good if Varys did go to King's Landing, and we had that opportunity to see, you know, some kind of interaction, maybe with Qyburn. That would be an interesting conversation, wouldn't it?
It would definitely be an interesting conversation. We have another actually amazing question. George, me and you talked about this week, actually. Daenerys, her vision in the House of the Undying, when she doesn't touch the Iron Throne, there's snow on the throne, she goes north beyond the wall. Could that happen in the next Game of Thrones season? Like, you know, could that be reflected? And what does it mean? Does this mean Daenerys is going to die? Does this mean her destiny is actually north of the wall? Was this actually what happened in this episode? Like, what do we think?
There's so many possibilities here. I mean, we think that Dany may end up being, she may be Azor Ahai, she may be Nisa Nisa. We don't know. And all of these prophecies, I think the more and more I'm getting into, I'm realizing that George R. R. Martin is really kind of putting everything out there on the face of it. There's really not a whole lot to interpret. Read it for what it says, not for what you think it might mean. And I think you'll be a lot closer to understanding what the prophecy is saying or doing. You know, like there are two options. When she sees the Iron Throne with snow on it, that's going to mean one of two things: either Jon Snow on the Iron Throne, or literally that's been destroyed and snow is falling because the White Walkers have gotten there. You know, don't try to overread. Don't try to overdo it. And just, he's gone north of the wall now. Are they going to have to go north of the wall again? I don't know. That's where the White Walker was, where the Night King was originally made. And maybe she's going to have to go up there and destroy some totem or something. I'm not sure.
We have another question for you, Gemma, from Morgan. Why did Sansa send Brienne to King's Landing when she is actually so afraid of Arya? We actually discussed this earlier in the episode, but I'm going to let you take this one.
Yeah, because, well, we believe that she's not afraid of Arya, that actually they're playing Littlefinger, that this is a plan. I'm trying to sum this up quickly. And my theory is that she sent Brienne away specifically because she vowed that she would never request of Brienne anything that might besmirch her honor, and therefore she's sending Brienne away so Brienne doesn't have to get involved with the plans that Arya and Sansa have for Littlefinger, which might not be something that Brienne would be on board with.
Yeah, I'm in agreement there on that one. I think it's pretty clear that, you know, she doesn't want to. I mean, her and Sansa already. Arya and Sansa already have their plans. It's going to unfold. Arya can protect Sansa at this point. Sansa can protect Sansa. She just has to spill the beans that Littlefinger basically killed by Citadel to Bronze Jon Royce, and he's screwed. people are talking about the plot holes in this episode. Dany went beyond the. Here's an interesting Prof. Simone. Dany went beyond the wall, like in her vision, and left her love Jon and her child Viserion behind, like she left Rhaego and Drogo. That's very interesting as well. I wonder if we'll see more visions from Daenerys, because we see them from Bran, but we know in the books dragon dreams are a thing as well. Was it me, or the first face in Arya's bag looked like Ned Stark's? Yeah, I mean, she couldn't have got Ned's face, man. It was stuck on a pike in King's Landing. Sorry.
Well, but that's, I mean, we don't know how they get the faces, and you know, I don't know about you guys, but I really believe Arya is going to kill Littlefinger. The question is it going to be like an execution, or I would like to think it's going to be up in the top of that tall old tower, where she's wearing at least one of three faces, either Sansa's face, Kat's face, or Ned's face. Because any one of them has a reason to strike fear into the heart of Littlefinger in some way. And it would be really awesome if it was Ned. It would be sort of awesome if it was Kat. Totally awesome if it was Sansa. But any one of those three, I want to see her wearing that face when she does the deed. Because I really feel that's coming.
So they might have teased us with that a little bit as well, when Sansa and Arya were looking at the statue, and Arya says it doesn't look like him. They should have got somebody who knew his face. So maybe.
That's some tinfoil right there. I mean, if they pull that off, that'd be pretty crazy, don't you think? I mean, for them to, like, I don't know, to have Sean Bean have an appearance like that, you know what I mean? Like,
why not? That would be, you know, everyone has said that there's some big secret that they've been holding back on, and I can't think of a bigger one. I really can't.
Of Sean Bean appearing in the season?
Sean Bean appearing for the Littlefinger kill. Like, how awesome that would be.
But wouldn't that freak out the rest of the North, though? Wouldn't that, like, freak out the rest of the North? Like, I don't know.
Everybody was there to see it. I mean, sometimes it is fans, sometimes it is just to show us the reaction on Littlefinger's face. You know, sometimes people want to see what someone does or says just because, right? So I think that would just be amazing for us if we got to see Littlefinger standing there, and then Ned's face go on, and just the look on his face as Arya kicks him over the ledge, and just as he drops all the way down to the ground, realizing everything he's done is wrong, and that Ned has come back, all his karma has come back on him. Come on, how awesome would that be?
It would be super awesome.
That would be amazing. I would literally, like, I wouldn't eat meat to see that. But I'd do something really insane to eat that. To see that. I'm tired. It's very late. I'd like to see that.
In the chat everywhere, can you think of a better way for that to happen? If you can, put it in the chat and let us see what it is. Share it with us, because I can't think of a better one myself.
But I think that's where we're going to end it tonight. It is super late for Gemma. We did take a couple of questions, but we are actually going to be taking all of your awesome questions next on Thursday. Is it going to be, Gemma, do you want to do it here on your, you didn't have as many on your channel last week. We had, we missed one because you weren't feeling well. Do you want to do it on your channel? We can do it on yours if you'd like. It's not a big deal to me.
Yeah, can do. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I wasn't feeling very chipper at all. It came on all of a sudden. I think I had a bit of a virus. I'm still not 100% actually, but I was really upset because I'd bought a new top and everything and ready to come and do live stream with you all, and then I was in bed shivering instead. Not good. But thank you for everybody for sending me your messages to wish me well. It's just so lovely. But yeah, if you want to send any Q&A to us, you can do. You can email me. All of my details are on my channel. You can reach out to me on Twitter, and you can do the same for Kyle. So if you want to sort of submit a Q&A for Thursday, then please do so. If you're one of my Patreons, of course, we do prioritize Patreons. So however you feel better getting in contact with me with your Q&As, then go for it. I will say probably best not to contact me on Facebook. I do have a Facebook, but I literally never go on Facebook. I'm really bad with Facebook. So, you know, anything other than Facebook, contact me and we will put aside your Q&A for Thursday.
I try to get to your Facebook messages and Twitter messages and comments as much as I can, but it can be overwhelming sometimes to get to every single one. Geez, the support has been amazing. I'm gonna give it away to my panel here, George. What's going on next?
Well, we've got our streams this week, and then you know, we have the final episode for the season. So we've got that going on, and there's gonna be a lot of speculation. There's a whole bunch of threads that we can talk about and try to figure out what's going to happen with them. There's gonna be this meeting at the Dragon Pit. Who's going to be there? Who's going to be there from each side? What are their responses to it going to be? And then I'll announce again. We're preparing a new channel. It's called Searching For, and it's going to be kind of searching for mysteries and talking about conspiracies and all sorts of fun, monstery stuff like that. Jem and I are putting that together, and Kyle is going to be part of that too. So that's one of our fun little things for the off season that hopefully you all will be able to enjoy.
That's going to be an interesting one. I probably won't be as part of it as much as these guys are, but I will be joining some episodes for sure, and we will be talking about some of the some alien conspiracies and stuff like that. But we're going to keep a Game of Thrones for right now. Gemma, you know, you kind of gave a little bit of a heads up, but you're going to be doing your episode breakdown, releasing that after the episode tonight, right?
Yeah, if I can stay awake long enough for it to upload. Fortunately, since I got my new laptop, it is very fast. It's ready to go. As soon as we come offline, I'm going to upload. So it's about 25 minutes long. So it'll be about 5-10 minutes to upload, another 5 minutes processing. So yeah, if I can stay awake, it'll be up. But don't expect me to reply to comments until tomorrow, because the second it's up, I'm going to bed.
And Lola is right. This is the nicest and friendliest chat / stream on YouTube. I love my panel. I love you guys in the chat. We really appreciate you guys coming out. If you do want to support the channel and you do want to support these guys in the chat, these guys on the panel, I left their links to their channels in the description of this video, so you can make sure you go subscribe to their channels as well. Me and George are going to Dragon Con, so if you wanted to help us get there, we need as much help as we can get, so you can donate to Patreon or the GoFundMe. That's going to be going on. I mean, George, we're going in basically how many days? Exactly 2 weeks? Something like that, right? Almost like less than 2 weeks.
2 weeks from Friday. Yeah.
2 weeks from Friday. So me and George are going to be going over there. So if you want to help, I got awesome rewards lined up on Patreon for you guys. We got special live streams, all sorts of cool extra content for you guys. And of course, if you do want to go to the GoFundMe, that's much appreciated. And of course, I will be dropping my episode breakdown. It'll be out in a couple hours. I'm not as quick as Gemma, but it will be out in the next 2 hours. I just have to add some music and a few more pictures. But thank you so much, everyone, for joining us here tonight. What I do want to do is I do want to send you guys to another stream. It's one of an awesome streamer. His name is Phil the Issues Guy, and I'm going to put the link here in the description of the chat. And if you guys could all go say Kyle sends his regards, he would be so happy to have you guys go join him live. He's talking about the episode with his panel right now, so I'm just going to spam that in the chat, and you guys can go hang out with Phil and tell him said Kyle sends his regards. But thank you so much for watching, everyone. We really appreciate you coming out tonight, and we'll see you in the next video. 7 blessings.